20 minutes.
I'll be done.
All right.
Go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Chairman, to
Your light bulb.
It was on when you first.
Yeah,
I
yeah, it
was
was.
gonna
It
say,
was
that's
definitely
on.
on. Well, maybe we won't be doing
it's source.
Try to unplug it and plug it back in.
It's gone.
That always works. So being back in elementary school with the projector. All right, yeah, first off, good evening, everyone. My name's Alex Meter. I'm a Township resident. I've lived here all my life. As some of the board members and some people in here tell you, I have a great passion for the outdoors and conservation. I'm a Pennsylvania Forest Steward certified by Penn State. I work with landowners on how to manage their property, their woodlands. I'm also a member of the Beaver Valley Winter Center Club. My dad's here. He's been a big influence on my life as far as being in the outdoors, hunting, etc. But it's kind of evolved over time. So some of this stuff might be new to some of you. These concepts aren't new, but there is some things in here that I think are very important in how we as a township can use this information to move forward as we anticipate on growing. So start. Oh no. Start the presentation. You think as a millennial I'd be so tech savvy? All right. So we won't do the slideshow. Yeah, okay. So first off, it's September right now, and everyone's allergies are acting up. And this is one of the most common misconceptions that there is, that goldenrod causes fall allergies. It does not. It's insect pollinated. The pollen is too heavy. It's a keystone plant, and it produces the largest fall honey crop. It is the most important fall blooming wildflower that there is. If you look around, drive through the fallow fields, what do you see right now? Goldenrod. The one you don't see that causes the allergies is ragweed, because it's wind pollinated. It does cause allergies. My allergies were acting up just when I was in here. I was cursing that dang ragweed. But from an ecological standpoint, both of those are phenomenal plants. And ragweed's the highest protein seed for birds that's out there, more than sorghum, sunflower, etc. It's dove season for all the hunters. That's what they're going for. If you kill a dove right now, I'm not saying you're a hunter, but in their crop you will find loaded with ragweed. So it is a beneficial plant, but don't get those two confused. There's too many people that just blame goldenrod, but it is definitely a keystone plant. And a native plant in Pennsylvania is one that was here prior to European settlement. And I put a list up here. Not all native plants are created equal. Certain plants, specifically ones on the list, have the highest ecological value. The ones on the list I've listed here, I really want to zoom in. Let me try again. Please. It's not going to work. Okay, so I can't zoom in, I apologize. All right, there we go. You think it's this cool? All right. Okay. Lord have mercy. All right. So the keystone plants are the ones that are most commonly found in New Sewickley. We have a lot of oaks. That is our most ecologically important species. Basically, if you lose your oaks, your black cherries, your maples that make up our forest, the entire food web collapses. That's why they are so important. Our native oaks support 534 species of Lepidoptera, which means moths and butterflies. 950 species in total use oaks to survive. So this is just the insects that feed on these plants. All these plants basically are host plants. They support the entire food web. Without these, they collapse. So just kind of go down the list of the common ones that you see.
Wow, you really ripped the lights now, Alex. How you really?
That's
That
impressive.
wasn't your fault.
That's impressive.
Okay.
You're jinxed.
Was that
Is that an entire power outage?
Oh my goodness. This room, I don't know if that's the township.
But it's the rest, yeah, probably all that one, when those lights come on.
See if we're on a circuit here, it's the whole building.
So Alex, I can tell you it's interesting, over at the church on Hartman's Mill, our oaks are all dying.
Yeah, so a lot of those are oak wilt or oak rust. A lot of them are really old too.
They're all hollow.
Yeah, yep, and that's just what happens.
I mean, sad,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm just gonna be honest, most people do not have a good enough understanding about forestry in general. Your forests have value, specifically timber value. And white oaks, next to black walnut are the highest value trees. Most people are opposed to cutting their forest because when you see a tree cut down, you're like, oh my God, what are you doing? But it's a renewable resource. And that's an underutilized component of landowners.
And that's what we have both over there, is the oak and black
Where
walnut.
do you
Yeah.
think, Ron?
My power's out.
And I can just talk through this and
Yeah,
you
you
know.
can.
Put it this way.
Hopefully that battery.
Yeah, you definitely need binoculars. Okay, so. Bizarre. And the biggest threat to our forest is a lot of those oak trees you see dying, there's no regeneration of oak. So what's coming back is not, your oak forest. And when you have overpopulation of deer, which we do, they decimate the understory of oaks. There's no regeneration. So whenever you're not doing cutting or it's really hard to regenerate an oak forest. So if we lose our oak, something's going to replace it. In general, it's being replaced by red maple, which is a great wildlife tree, but it doesn't support the same number or host of species just because of the mass crop that oaks produce every single year. But this is why New Sewickley is so important, because we have such a diverse array of basically trees and wildlife. That's really the rural appeal, how I've always looked at it. Our pollinators really are in serious trouble. You heard on the news about the honeybee collapse, the hive collapse, etc. No one talks about the native bees. The honeybees are introduced species from Europe. That's like all the focus goes into a non-native species, but really our native bumblebees, our miner bees, leafcutter bees, etc. are taking a real beating. Eastern monarch butterfly, I'll show you why this is so important for New Sewickley. This is the summer breeding range of the eastern monarch butterfly. And Western PA is smack dab, it couldn't get any more red hot along this high river corridor. That's why it's so important. If you drive around, farmers' fields are incredibly important, especially edges, because you'll see milkweed pop up. That's why that we have those butterflies here. When I was growing up, my first memory was coming out in my dad's horse pasture and seeing a monarch butterfly and milkweed plant. And I was fascinated. But if you look around, you do not see as many as you used to. There is a serious decline. Here's the population trends, and this is why it's so staggering. It's not something that's happened over 100 years or a long-term trend. We've only been monitoring this since, I think, 1980. You see, 1997, it reached its peak. we're right here. Monarch butterfly has lost 95% of its population since 1996. I mean, that is incredible. So without milkweed, you don't have any monarchs. They are gone. They will go extinct probably, definitely in my lifetime, and probably within the next decade. It is that serious. And being that New Sewickley's, in this range here, we can absolutely do something about this, but we have to start now. It really can't wait. As insects go, birds go too. The majority of a bird's diet, 80% of the birds eat insects when they're young. Clutch of chickadees takes 6,000 caterpillars to become adults. So if you're not producing as many caterpillars, insect decline, basically the birds fall. Everything is on this, food web. It's sad to look at this and kind of sobering too that we are having this effect. This is human induced, 100%. So we are, myself sitting here is responsible. But that's why I want to say that we can do something. All is not lost. New Sewickley's predominantly farms and pastures, forests, and I believe truly in my heart of hearts that we can have a difference and still have it going here. But this statistic alone, 2021, 1.6 million acres were lost to development, and this also includes agricultural practices like converting native prairie to cropland to larger than the state of Delaware. That's happening every year. That's staggering. 2.9 billion birds. These are breeding birds, and these aren't even birds that are hunted. This is like saying the passenger pigeon that went extinct. These birds are not coming back. There's not enough habitat to reproduce them. A lot of these birds are becoming functionally extinct. We cannot rely on our state parks and national parks to foster these. Our farmers, our rural communities kept these birds vibrant and abundant, but when you have development, unfortunately things suffer, and it's a lot of because of our landscaping choices. The little brown bat, this is staggering. This used to be the most abundant bat. You can see bats everywhere. It's now stayed in danger. 99% decline. The most abundant bat, and this was caused by the white nose syndrome. It's destroying our bats. You have less insects, less bats. You have more West Nile. It makes sense. Here's another very interesting one I've been looking into. There's a study out in England that found that light pollution actually causes insect decline, mostly for moths, because they're night flying. They will buzz around those lights over and over again and basically wear themselves out until they die. So what can you do? And there's a really simple solution. For your night lighting, use yellow LED bulb instead of white, because it's in the UV spectrum, and the yellow LED light bulbs, they're not as attractive to these night flying insects. So it's something very simple, very it's just a little tweak on how we do things. But this is a large reason for the decline of our moth species too. Major causes, I would say the number one is the lack of ecological understanding and appreciation from the public. I had a life science class, but I don't believe I had an ecology class. What did we learn about our backyard plants? What did we learn about farming in school? Not much. Habitat loss, deforestation, different land management practices. This is probably the most egregious one, is invasive species and non-native landscaping plants, because we're basically taking plants from Europe and China and bringing them here to the United States. And, we celebrate great landscaping and these exotic plants, but they do not belong here, and our ecosystem doesn't support them. Also, widespread pesticide and herbicide use. We've just gotten so much better at growing food basically to support a growing population. And here's the results. Driving down Lobi Road, this is Melvin Eisenbrown's old property. You can see all these trees here on this regenerating field is all Bradford pear. There's no forest regenerating in here. It's all Bradford pear. Invasive species were induced after European settlement, and there's a list here that go through. Crown vetch, which is touted by Pennsylvania, it's a great one for erosion control, but it's incredibly invasive. Another one that was touted in the past, great for erosion control and wildlife, is kudzu, the vine that's taken over the south and nothing grows on. So if you want to plant something here, with crown veg, all you're going to get is crown veg eventually. There's so many that I won't belabor, but you can see here. This is on the industrial plan, Mitsubishi Electric going up to Freedom Crossing. This whole hillside is eroding, but it's the Bradford pear. This whole hillside, there's some white pine here. There's no invasive species management at all. These things are just growing wild. And this is because of cranberry. Cranberry didn't have any of these things in place whenever they started doing these developments. They didn't know. And this is the ecological consequences of this. Invasive species, this is why they're so bad, is they host 0 insects that support our native wildlife. And they're poor nutrition. So think twice before you pick something non-native or invasive. And this is the worst one. Japanese barberry. You could just have one in your yard, and this is a photo taken next to a housing development. This is what happens to our woodlands. Say I was a woodland landowner, which most people in New Sewickley Township are. If I was able to come in here and want to do a timber harvest, guess what's growing back? Nothing native, nothing of value, barberry. It's going to cost tens of thousands of dollars and years to regenerate a forest in there, if you even could. But these are the consequences, and these are real. You walk in our woodlands, you'll see our understory is overtaken by invasive species.
Was that taken in the fall? Is that why it's red?
Yeah, yep. I mean, it's beautiful and it's hardy, but it takes...
Does it have prickles on it?
What's that?
Is it prickly?
Yes, and it harbors ticks.
Alex,
Yes.
did not PennDOT hire Penn State back in the 70s to create crown veg?
Yeah, and even... so there's a company, NST, that's one of their top sellers. They did that, yeah.
Yes,
But
they did it to put it along highways,
Right.
and that's what they've been planning for the last 50 years, right?
Yep. And they still do it.
Right, so they're planting an invasive species on purpose.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just wanted everyone to know that. It's like a lot of these things you don't understand the consequences till you get, decades down the road. Say that was a bad decision. It really was. Same with Multiflora Rose, Game Commission, Autumn Olive, all the same. So crown veg, Pennsylvania even lists it as invasive. Italian ryegrass, it's an exotic, invasive, but it's good for lawns. This is why native plants are superior. So here's a list. These are basically your native prairie plants. And when I say prairie, these all grow in Pennsylvania too. This is, we have switchgrass here, Indian grass, this is buffalo grass, purple coneflower. All these root systems go 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way down to 15 feet. Switchgrass grows, I think, all the way down to 12 feet. And here's your turf grass right here, and I have this blown up. 2 to 3 inches. That's what goes in all our retention ponds. This is why you can't infiltrate any water, because your soil on here is so compact. Where's it going to go but out? These open up the soil, allow for compaction, erosion, control, captures carbon. You don't capture carbon up here, you're capturing in the soil. That's what stores the most carbon. And like when leaves, fall in the fall, they create soil. That's where you're capturing all your carbon, is in your soil. And none of these are expensive, they're all commercially available. It's not like it would be difficult to get those. I think I handed out this slide the last time. This is a native plant, detention basin or bioswale, as this is called. You can just see the difference. Who wants to look at that culvert right there? I know I don't. And I was like, okay, who's doing this around here that I can use for a good example? Former Glade Run up in Zillion Oakwood. These are their retention ponds. And you have the native rose milkweed, the blue vervain. They have switchgrass in here, Indian grass, and it's all mowed around here. But you can't even see it until you walk up on it. So it's a perfect place, these marginal areas, to do something for pollinators, stabilize the soil, reduce erosion, capture carbon, and really give back with these keystone species like milkweed for the monarch butterfly. Just another example, and this is what I'm suggesting. This is what I think that would be the most beneficial as far as a township to do, is to do something like this. Just looking at a retention basin is not pretty. Here's another one that always perplexes me. You can see here, this guy's trying to mow the steep slope. Why? Why are you wasting money? This guy's safety, and here you can already see the erosion starting. Why? This is all, that was planned so it could stabilize that hillside, but for some reason, we have this raging obsession with cutting grass and wasting money. It's just, it really is. And you can do something along these lines too, where you never even have to mow it or touch it again. If it was absolutely necessary to mow it, I would say you got to do it. But to me, some things just seem really silly, and our money could be spent and time be spent elsewhere. Here's some options. I'm not like a native purist, but some things you can do as far as stabilization control on these steep slopes is plant legumes that come up. They're annuals. This is partridge pea and this is crimson clover. If you've ever seen a field of crimson clover in the spring, it blooms in May, you will be amazed. You will fall in love. But these are some non-native options, or different options other than invasive crown bench. Another thing too, there's a lot of grasses that establish very quickly that are native, and even winter wheat. Sear rye is also used as a good cover crop for erosion control. So you don't always have to just go for the crown bench or something invasive. This is what you basically see. You drive through housing developments. Even my property tends to look like this too. And when I was looking at this, I was like, is this me? I have to put myself in, I have to put my money where my mouth is, right? And I looked at this. This is the mulch volcano. Everyone sees those. It's like, holy cow, what is that thing? And they have the right way to do it and the wrong way. Well, really, both of these are the wrong way. They're the wrong way. This is really how it should be done. You have ground cover as living mulch. Because from an ecological standpoint, when those leaves fall, all the caterpillars that overwinter, they overwinter in your leaves. You have to give them a place to land. And they can't land on impervious surfaces. They're going to die. Concrete and even mowed grass. That's why these are declining, because we have an obsession with mowing. But it's not an obsession. It's just that we didn't know. This information has been coming about over the last maybe 20 years. But we're starting to get an understanding that this is really the right way to landscape with nature. For all new developments, I think the absolute way to go is to support our pollinators and support our native trees. I'd say number one would be the eastern redbud tree, and this is our native crabapple. They're covered in pollinators. In the spring, they're especially important for our bumblebee queens that are just coming out at that time of year. Also honeybees as well. So you can do a lot of things. You don't have to have these massive trees that when they get too big, they become a problem for the homeowner. They could fall on a house. There's so many shorter trees, like understory trees or shrubs that you can plant that provide the same ecological value as a large tree. But I think we have to focus on using our keystone trees. We can't just say native. It's not enough, because there's native plants that have really no ecological value as far as how it's concerned in the context of New Sewickley. Open space for pollinator habitat. Now I understand that I think it's 20% of our PRDs right now. 20% of that landscape is required for open space.
What's PRD?
Planned residential development. And I'm not saying don't have any places for kids to play or recreate, but certainly in our retention basins and stuff, this is the perfect place to do a pollinator planting. Adopt a conservation subdivision model. I believe Weaver has actually done a pretty good job of that. I've seen some of their plans, and they are actually using some of these models here, which is good. But certainly there's some, maybe not in Pennsylvania, but other states where they just they pack in the houses, and there's nothing left. Thank goodness that we do have some zoning laws in place to keep that open space as a mandatory requirement. Another thing you could do, and even in developments, is put in bird boxes or bat boxes as well. So I want to say that conservation is absolutely important, and our PRDs can be a great conservation tool for us. Any development can actually be. It doesn't have to just be something that's an eyesore or something that doesn't benefit the ecosystem. We can actually develop in harmony with nature. And my one concern here was whenever woodlands are conserved, if they're overtaken by invasive species already, why do you want to conserve degraded resource? Conservation should really be in restoration. In those areas that we're conserving, we should really focus on the restoration of those areas so they remain viable for the purpose of conservation in perpetuity. So mandate utility right-of-ways, use native grass and wildflowers, that's a no-brainer. This is something that the Beaver Valley Pointer Setter Club has done on 50 acres of gas pipeline, and these are results. These are some of the retention ponds here. This was the second year after planting, so we were actually able to restore wild bobwhite quail on our property, which is kind of an uncommon feat. And I don't think anyone's heard of bobwhite quail in New Sewickley for quite some time. So what I'm saying is industry and conservation can work together. It doesn't have to be one or the other. It's a win-win for both parties. Penn Energy is super stoked, and I say, hey, advertise this on your, say you're doing this stuff. Like, it doesn't have to just be take. It's, they're actually giving back. So this was a great collaboration. And I'm not saying we're going to restore bobwhite quail, but I know American woodcock, they do use retention ponds, woodland edges, etc. Wild turkeys too. We have a ton of wild turkey in here. We have to leave something left for the development too. And this is the last two slides. These are the benefits. Basically, you're reducing your cost of inputs and resources for ongoing management. So all these places you plant, you don't have to go back in and mow all the time or spray or fertilize or something. Native plants do not need fertilized. Water is certainly important for the trees that we plant. I see a lot of places will go in and plant trees and then they all die. Especially in this, past summer, it's been so droughty, a lot of those trees in these new developments are just dead. So if there was a watering program or something, like those trees, and also time of planting too. Best time to plant trees is in the fall when the nighttime temperatures are cool. If you try to plant them in May or June, chances are they're going to succumb to drought and not take. They take about 2 to 3 years to really establish. But once you get them going, they're fine. So the conservation is as we develop, we're already conserving 20% of our land within the PRD, and if we can add these native plants, in the retention basins and in the plant choices, basically we're saying hey, we are actually conserving 20% of the land. We're not just coming in and taking everything. We're actually making it better. We're generating it and actually having an ecosystem. So I think it draws favorable public opinion, especially people that are maybe against development. You use this as an example, say, hey, guess what? We're working with developers to show them that this can be a collaboration. You have this whole culture of green energy and all this. I think it really goes a long way if we can kind of pivot on this and say we are doing something to give back to the environment. We can be a leader in conservation and sustainable growth. We really can. There's 1%, less than 1% of the entire United States has a native plant ordinance. There's a few in PA. Bucks County does. It's one of the wealthiest counties in Pennsylvania. And it actually showed, I saw a model that said the more wealthier an area it is, the less biodiverse it is. Because usually people have more money to do landscaping, mow their lawns all the time. So one thing about New Sewickley, I'm not saying anything about economics, but a lot of these, marginal areas, people's woodlots, people's fallow fields, whatever, that's why they're good, because they don't get mowed because people don't have the time to do it or the money to expend resources. So I thought that was interesting, but basically I'm trying to get it to say that you can do something on your land and we can do something to make a difference towards conservation. And then I was thinking about how we can say, instead of saying housing development or Dollar General, what would be better? Another housing development. How about an eco-village? It's the same thing as housing development. You're just changing the words, right? And that's what I'm saying. PRDs and development can become our greatest conservation tool rather than our biggest threat. We don't have to oppose it, but we certainly have to put the things in place to say, hey, we actually care about our woods, our waters, our lands, or our wildlife. We can do something. The developers want to work with us. They want to be here. These two can work so, stride, really. I fully believe that. And I'm suggesting implementing not just a native plant ordinance, a keystone native plant ordinance from that list. Basically the ones that are already here that support the highest diversity of species. Also, the undisturbed areas I think really need to be paying attention to what invasives are already there before we go into development, because when you disturb an area, it just gets worse. And all these can be captured when the developer submits their landscaping plan, and that's really why I've been harping on this so much, just because I've seen it work in my dealings with industry and other landowners. And then here's some resources here, basically the links to all these. I have, and I'm not promoting anything, but if you're interested, yeah, I believe that we can really grow and still have the characteristics of rural community while still growing, because I think that's important too. And that wraps up my presentation. Thank you.
I'll take one question. Okay. I've got some trees a few years ago that I planted that were supposed to be 98% American chestnut and 2% others, and they've been doing fine. They actually getting chestnuts off of them now. Is there any research done on those to try to get them back in as native trees in Pennsylvania?
The worst thing that ever happened was when the chestnut got the blight, they cut down all the mature trees, so you lost all the genetic diversity that you could have selected those from. So the the State University of New York came up with a transgenic chestnut, which basically took, it was some DNA strain from strawberries and put it into the American chestnut. And they had good success, but the FDA was worried that was going to become an invasive species because of that gene. So that fell through. But the breeding program through genetics, they've actually been, American Chestnut Foundation has been doing that. So that is correct. Like that they're breeding for that gene to have that blight resistance. It's never gonna get rid of the blight. It doesn't go away, but those trees will survive to maturity. And basically that's what you don't see in our forest. Chestnuts are functionally extinct.
Well, chestnuts are still starting. You'll still see them in the woods, but when they get up, 20 feet, and that's the end of them.
Yep. That's good, you have them, that's cool.
Yeah, it is.
I have a question too. In the areas where you plant the wildflowers, say in stormwater areas or open space, and you get the wildflowers to grow, what kind of management tool do you use then to maintain that? Because eventually you're going to get invasive brush, tree saplings growing in. So do you brush hog it every year in the fall? Or
Yeah, it's once a year actually in the springtime. Yeah, so about April. You do it. Bird nesting season really starts May 1st. So our turkeys, that's when they start to nest, is around May 1st, late April.
Okay, so then the flower species are perennials, so they will regrow
Yep.
when the weather warms up.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and year after year, and it only gets better over time. So you put in your biennials, your short-lived perennials. Basically, they come up first and the second year along with your annuals, and then your perennials that take longer to establish. Some of those grow like a butterfly milkweed. Will grow like 90 years. So a lot of those are like old growth species that will persist. But you do have to manage them, right?
Right.
And we don't live in.
Some of these areas are going to be designed so they don't want it to grow up for visibility. And,
Yeah.
And
Yep.
if it gets too thick, there'll be predator, animals, and snakes, like that. But so if it's brush hog, say once a year.
Yeah, you just
maintain that.
Yeah, instead of mowing every single week, I don't know what that would be, but if you figure 13 or 14 retention ponds, you got to mow every week. That's thousands of dollars in the budget. And you can do it once a year, and no one even knows that you're there.
You have to catch the weather.
Yeah.
Conditions, soil conditions, so you don't get stuck.
That's true.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay.
But yeah, it does need management. If we could use fire, that'd be ideal, but no. I burn my property because I have a fire department. Down south, and that's what you see. You see people lighting their fields on fire. But you do it up here, people think you're crazy.
Are there any invasive species that seem to be good for the country?
No. Not in that term of invasive, right? So non-native species for sure. A lot of our crops are non-native. But as far as in,
What was the last
our,
one?
our crops are non-native, right?
Okay, yeah.
I mean, corn's native, but that's been cultivated, so, but no, an invasive species takes over that area, and it basically, it blooms, it grows faster, it outcompetes every single thing, and it'll create a monoculture, so there's no checks and balances from its own ecosystem. So that's why it takes over, because you took out the checks and balances of where it's from.
Can you make that presentation available to residents?
Sure, I will email it to you. I don't know, I could set up a OneDrive, but give me your email address and I will send it to you.
Yeah. So Alex, do you see like some of the waterways drying up? Is that, I'm gonna assume that ought to affect native plants as well? Because I know from growing up, some of our water, there were not ponds, but like the natural springs.
Yep.
And stuff like that. So the milkweed was there and there were other things. Those have dried up and all of those things have gone. So that's playing a part in this as well, correct?
Absolutely. I think, I mean, I can't say necessarily climate change,
But it contributes.
yeah, it does, because our rain events have been, you'll have almost a catastrophic rain, and very intense, and then followed by periods of dry.
Yeah.
But the native plants really in general are adapted to any condition. There's some that are specialists that only occur in wetlands. They're not going to survive in an upland environment. So you're exactly right. All right, thanks
Do you
again.
have a copy of the whole presentation?
Yeah.
It's a link.
If you have
Send
it,
it to
then
you.
the audience can either ask you to send it to them or keep it as well.
Yeah, send it to me, Alex, and anybody that wants it, email Secretary Sewickley, and I will then share it with you.
Okay. We have. Thank you. Yeah, appreciate it.
Does the commission have any questions for Alex? Thanks, Alex.
Yeah, you're welcome. You want my seat? What was that, 6B? 6.5?
Yeah. Okay. Under old business, we have the Meadowcrest land development. We have Brett here tonight. What do you want to do? You got the same presentation I got.
Correct. What I would like to do tonight, first of all, Brett Schultz of Meadowcrest LP, PO Box 449. What I would like to do tonight, in a limited capacity, is review with the committee the most recent, about a week old, Lennon Smith letter, pretty much limited to the land development aspects of it, not the stormwater, because that's agreeable to you guys. I can be very quick about this. I've got my plans over here, so I'd just like to highlight the areas and identify, so we all know what we're trying to do as far as a resubmission in about a week in advance of your next meeting. That's agreeable.
Well, I would like it to be quicker than that.
I didn't say a time. Oh, resubmission, or how much time you want to give me?
We are on a clock
Understood.
to approve or deny the application of the final plan. And,
With the understanding,
still a lot of, open issues under the OSLC.
I'm here to hopefully initiate a conversation about those and limit those so that I can take back. For the record, the letter I'm here to discuss tonight was received September 13th.
Yeah, that's the one I got.
That's the one you've got as well. Which was our second review letter, which initially was received the day of the first planning commission meeting.
Correct.
We will be within a week of getting this done. We just, quite honestly, ran into some time constraints. And I will keep this as limited and short as possible.
Well, I ain't worried about your length, I'm just worried about the content, what you can add to this.
Sure.
To help eliminate some of these.
With all due respect, I mean, it's a 9-page letter, but it's a lot of, hope you guys will agree and please confirm. that is a lot of back and forth. It's just simply a lot of documentation of what Len Smith initially said, our response, your response, and our response to be back. Is that fair to say?
That's a fair representation.
Yeah, this is not a 9-page comment letter. It's 4 comments per page. It's not a big one. But I would like to begin, not to steal his thunder, but Alex and I spent, 2 weeks ago, a little over an hour on this same presentation, where we got into some of the details. I'm somewhat versed in what he's talking about. We have, I'll say, committed to at least trying or having a conversation to implement a lot of what he just said into our open space areas, the stormwater management areas that are to be retained in perpetuity and owned by eventually the Master Association. With a few caveats, as Alex did mention, there's a little, and Mr. Phipps even brought it up, there's a little bit of discrepancy between what the state is allowing you to plant and what may be more beneficial ecologically and certainly aesthetically. So we've got a little bit of a hurdle, I think that's fair to say, to get through to make sure that we can not only meet the state guidelines as far as what they want to see growing versus what may be more, and you even brought that up, mowing and what happens to it long range. The state's program is, that's why they plant crown vetch on the side of the highway, because it stays there forever. But I did want to point out he's done an excellent job, and that's a great presentation. I encourage you all to really dig into that because it's really some good information there.
Thank you.
All right. I'm going to move on to the letter. I'm going to go as fast as you'll let me. 1. Water service laterals. This is a couple of lines. I have the plans up here. We had failed to show, I think, water service lines, which is just literally a line going from here to there, how the water's getting to that site.
For each lot.
Done. Correct. Ordinance requires the realignment of filling of piping and diverted. We are fully engaged with DEP and the Conservation District with respect to any crossings or environmental concerns. Your ordinance requires that. That application has received an administrative review by the Beaver County Conservation District with regard to its NPDS and its general permits. Those would be the permits that allow us to encroach where is necessary, for instance, right here, to cross. That's number 2. Yep, you told me to go fast. There was a...
Let me go back to number 1 if that's all right with
Sure.
you.
Yep.
You're gonna run the water line from 989 to the development.
That's correct. The comment we're talking about is we had failed to show graphically the 1-inch service line from the main to the house on a few of the lots. Yeah, but we are agreeing from essentially the PennDOT maintenance shed on 989 along Klein Road to the, there's something laying above me, to the easterly, correct.
My comment or concern is, are you working with the municipal authority to
Yes.
agree with them, agree with you, or vice
Correct.
versa?
We've had a meeting 3 weeks ago, a month ago. We had prepared for them preliminary plans to show that alignment, and we've asked for, and they've provided us their details. We do owe them, pending this meeting, of finalization at least, and their response is, where you would like the water line, how you would like to see it graphically shown on the plans. But yes, we have had a very in-depth coordination meeting with the water, with the
Well, I guess,
municipal authority.
again, focusing on the need to have them supply the township with a letter saying that they're in agreement with your progress.
Well, your ordinance requires that we have a utility service letter, which we have, which has been supplied. We're now down, my point about the comments being, while lengthy, they're down to show the lateral here. I believe we've satisfied the ordinance requirement. As is this particular comment, proposed water service lateral locations have not been proposed for Woods Run, Klein Road, Lilac, and the clubhouse. So I'm trying to address the particular comments. I believe you're satisfied with the general water line alignment within the plan and its origination point at the PennDOT maintenance shed.
Yeah, the request is to show all the utility service lines on all the individual lots.
Correct.
And as well as provide confirmation that the water authority has approved the main line extension as well.
Correct, which at this point is a can-will serve letter, and we continue to work with them to gain that approval. These are all joined, if you will, approvals, and that we are all the same folks.
My point is, you have made the connection, you are talking to them.
Absolutely,
It's just a matter of you all working out the final plan.
that's correct.
Go ahead, number
May,
two.
may I just ask, he mentioned the starting point at the PennDOT facility. Where's the final point
So this is
of the water line?
It is just beyond our easterly entrance, and I believe we've agreed to extend it to the the last property owner that's across the street,
Last property owner on the line.
on Klein.
To the end of the county line.
To the last property owner on Klein. These are my
The issue
grading
here
plans.
is, we're not asking for comments.
I'm not, I heard the starting point. I was just looking for clarification
Not to the
on
county line, but to the end of our property,
to the end. Okay.
which leaves, as you know, 1,000 feet to the county line, which I can't install a water line on someone else's property.
Well, on that issue, it's been the position of the planning commission that the water line would go to the end of Klein Road or the last property.
No, it was at the county, it was the end of our property. You're onto someone else's property now. They can pick it up.
Well, you're on the township's property. You're in the right of way.
This is true.
And I
We've
wonder,
agreed to take it to the end of our property line.
I'm looking for the water line. to be
Whatever's,
extended.
I'll tell you, whatever's on the plans that were approved the tentative, what we will do. Whether that's to the end of our property or to the county line, I'll agree to that.
Yeah, I'll verify.
Yeah. That's the best I can say,
Go ahead.
okay?
Number two.
The ordinance requires the structures, this is regard to the buffer yard, the berm that we've agreed to supply around the clubhouse, which was graphically shown here. I'll highlight that. We showed with a note mounded landscape berm. The request is to show the contours of said berm, which is no issue. We'll just show contours of the berm. Number 4.
I think how I read number 3 was you're showing the berm, but it's not consistent on all the pages of the plan. And they were looking to have all the plan pages consistent.
Well,
throughout.
what I've been through the plan was a dashed line, which is consistent with the leader that identifies mounded landscape berm. What the comment was they individually show the contours of that berm to more clearly define what that berm means. Is that a correct?
That's a correct statement.
That's a correct statement.
All right. You're up to date on all this, John?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Okay. Go ahead.
Number 4, with respect to the E&S plan, the NPDS permit has been submitted to the Beaver County Conservation District. We did earlier this week receive our, albeit technical deficiency letter, administrative deficiency letter, but we have received correspondence back from them. We will obviously provide the township with that approval once sought or once achieved. I think you would agree that those are, again, concurrently running operations with respect to how the approvals are gained at this level and also at the county conservation district level.
Yeah, conservation would be a third-party approval. We would just ask that you provide the updated plans as you resubmit to the conservation district.
Not a problem at all. Number 5, this is with regard to geotechnical requirements. We've done a preliminary, and as part of final, provided a final geotechnical report. The comment is asking confirmation that the developer will engage, i.e. in the future, engineering, engage the service of a geotechnical consultant, as the report recommends has been provided. a recommended condition of approval is requirement of the geotechnical consultant to provide certification of compliance with the report. So I clearly can't provide a report that verifies we complied with, I haven't done the work yet. So we agree to provide all geotechnical reports. We must complete the work in order to do so. If that is agreeable to when staff or you guys.
Yeah, ultimately, this comment was to have you confirm that you are going to provide.
I will confirm we will
on-site
provide the
geotech
report.
And then certification once the grading work has been completed.
Once it's been done, but I can't possibly, obviously, certify that until we do the work. Okay.
Now, that report says that it does not address the ability of proposed cuts and fill slopes. That wasn't carried forward to the status. So if he were to confirm the one we have now, he wouldn't be confirming that. So do we?
So that was from the original geotechnical report that he did from the investigation.
It's been added since then.
That's correct,
So
yes.
it will get confirmed.
And for what it's worth, when we're moving dirt, our geotech will be there all the time, but it's the best, I don't want to say insurance policy, but it's the best money I can spend in confirming that we're doing it right. From not me eyeballing it, not these guys looking at it, but someone else putting their name on it. So we are very particular about that. Number 6, regarding the widening of Hoffman Road, we have agreed to widen Hoffman to a width of a minimum of 18 feet. As we all know, Hoffman ranges from 16 to 17 and a half, back to 17 to whatever it is. The detail we provided was an 18-foot wide road. We will widen as is necessary to confirm that that road is 18 feet wide. As the comment letter does state, the plans indicate a width varying from 16 and a half to 18 feet. So I'm not sure how to best show other than, we'll widen the road to the road detail, other than to state that it will be 18 feet wide when complete versus, maybe a widening of 3 inches here, 1.9 here, 12 inches there. That's as you guys know, that's a difficult, I would cut a section every, I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
But we do agree we've agreed to widening the road to the 18 feet.
Yeah, we would want to see a detail showing that 18-foot wide.
Right.
I think the detail that was referenced in the resubmission was the Township trench restoration.
It was a trench, right? But there's not a township road widening detail.
So I would think just do a typical section of Hoffman Road,
Okay.
18 feet.
Okay. I do believe we used the standard road detail for that.
Okay.
Okay. Well, it's a very typical road.
That's what I'm seeing a lot of, it's just that it's not, you're saying, yeah, but then there's just always something seems to be missing.
With respect to this, my position, there's nothing missing. We've got the 18-foot wide road detail on there. The township doesn't have a detail how you make a 16-foot wide road 18 feet wide. We use the only applicable detail we had. In the absence of a road widening detail, we used the best we had.
Way I envision, and I'm not telling you how to do your job.
Mhm.
See, to me, the way I've seen the township widen their roads, is they just have a 2-foot trencher that goes down and adds 2 feet to whatever part has to be added. And then,
That's exactly what we intend to do, but if the road's already 18 feet wide, we're not going to cut out 2 feet to put 2 feet back.
you wouldn't have to do that.
Right, which is why we have the standard detail that said that when we're all done, this road will be 18 feet wide, and here's the paving section.
You're gonna be able to accept that?
So what I would want to see is a Hoffman Street called out specific little detail. So I know you referenced the township standard road section. I think that's more applicable to the roads inside the development.
Okay.
I think you would make a typical section showing 18-foot wide for Hoffman. So it's called out specifically for that roadway.
Okay.
You wanna work as many details out of tonight as possible.
That's why.
That's the way I'm reading this.
That's why we're here, but I don't have a detail to go from A to B. We're going to kick the ball back and forth.
You wanna eliminate.
Exactly.
So you want me to
condition of approval include installation of new wearing course. We've agreed to the new wearing course on Klein and Hoffman, so I don't, other than agreeing to it.
So I think this ask was just showing the limits of where to and from on it, where you guys
We-
agreed to.
We addressed it, as you know, here within the proposed project limits, which I don't,
I remember that.
I don't know how the project limits are the south along Hoffman and east and west along Klein on our,
That,
to our property line.
you wanna jump in anytime you need.
Yeah, please, I'm here to gather information, take it back and make the plans right.
Yeah, ultimately, you just show start to finish where mill and pay begins on,
Okay.
on both those roads. That's the ask on that comment.
Show limits. Okay. Number 8, with respect to the, I'm sorry, number 7. The installation of the wastewater treatment plant. We are hopefully nearing at least a preliminary approval of some sort of DP. We commit to providing you that documentation as soon as we have it. At this point in time, I don't have anything to provide. And as John, as you mentioned, a third-party permit, I can warrant that anything I have, the township will have. Item 8. I believe that this is regard to the open space maintenance of landscaping and plantings and buffer areas. I believe that's addressed in our HOA documents. I know Alexis is not here tonight. I know it's addressed, which would be, to me, the typical place to put that in writing versus a note on a plan, because nobody keeps the plans. They all have their condo docs or their public offering statement.
Yeah, agreed. We'll follow up with Alexis that she's okay with everything.
Number 9 would be probably the largest one. We had, in prior discussions with staff and the engineer, agreed that we would engineer the entire site at one time such that everybody could see everything that is going on. Lennon Smith had made a comment about the phasing. Well, what's preferable to us, as opposed to having phase 1 with future phase 2, phase 2 with old phase 1 and future phase 3, that we be allowed to identify the phasing limits via heavy bold line. That will trip meaning cause the appropriate bonding, everything to occur, versus trying to tie contours into this, and the plans are going to be a mess. They're going to end up with 5 or 6 sets of drawings, and who knows. But your comment still was, with respect to phasing, what we would like to do is exactly that: is show the actual limits of work required for each successive phase with the same set of plans.
Yeah, that's
okay.
That's acceptable.
Does that make sense there? We still want to see the whole thing. Okay. Item 10 is discussed.
Go back to 9 real quick. I just want to also the roadway improvements as well. Just clarify when you're which phase that we'll do with Hoffman and Klein. Just clarify if the widening of Hoffman is going to be in phase 1, 2, or 3, or at the very end, and all the resurfacing at the very end too.
I believe we had talked about that. Actually, I know we had talked about the widening and the topping of both Hoffman and Klein, to my, I don't want to say detriment. I want to do them now. But to the township's benefit, they come towards the end of the project. And again, we're out of ordinance here, so to speak, because there's not a requirement to actually top the roads.
So you want to widen them prior?
Well, I got to sell it, right? I want nice, clean. These are roads I don't own. I want the wide. I'm spending the money either way. It's my best interest to have a wider road with a nice surface. It's likely in the township's best interest to have that be put off till all the construction happens. So when we're done, you got a wider road with a nice clean surface and all the homes built.
I agree, you do it both.
Listen.
We're all happy.
Again, we're out of ordinance here because that, in my opinion, is not an ordinance provision.
I can't say I'm negative to either way.
Either one, yeah.
If you wanna do it ahead of time, fine. Obviously, if there's any damage done during the rest of the construction, you would repair it, I would feel, that you would. You're bonding it anyway.
Well, I'm not bonding, I'm bonding my work done, but I'm not bonding the entirety of the road. Well, not to the bonding standard that I'll be held to on site.
I just think you'd be taking a risk. I'm not against what you're saying. I just look at it from the risk that you're taking as a developer to mess up something you already did. It might
I
have
don't
to-
disagree, right. This, by the way, please acknowledge, this is not part of your comment that I can see as far as when the roads get.
No, our comment here,
Yeah.
on page 4, on the top of it, it asks when you're going to be doing the road work in there, just to identify on the phasing plan.
On the phasing plan, when that's gonna happen.
I think we, as long as it's done, we can say you can do it when you want. But I do think there's a potential for damage to be done while the rest of the development's done. That's a risk I think you're taking, but I don't think there's a problem. It should not be a problem from the township standpoint of view. I don't.
I think when we talked about it, we agreed, once he's completed, you put a nice seal coat top.
Yeah, but he's going to the other side of it and saying, you know, I'm gonna be selling my development ahead of time.
That's on Mr. Schultz over there. That's why.
Well, that's what I'm saying, I was taking the risk.
Well, I acknowledge what we had talked about before, where I know where you wanted to be, but I'm simply responding to the question that was asked because it was asked. I don't,
I have to give him the benefit of the doubt.
You could widen it at the beginning, that's not a problem.
maybe a widen and a scratch, and then come back in when we're all done, the top coat.
Top coat, yep.
That,
I think it's more than reasonable.
okay. You guys keeping notes, because I got limited
I got
space, okay.
That was surprising.
So we had a scrap road for 10 years.
I don't know, has any bearing on it, but there's.
Were we on
In his
11?
plan to county line, he should take care of that. Not that it's to the property line. It's a couple hundred feet.
To Cranberry,
The cranberry line,
it's 1,100 feet.
take care of that.
You can't do that to me, that's not on my tentative plans. Thank you. I can't vary from my tentative plans. 10 was just simply noting some additional signage notes, clearing up some in the egress direction. So we've got them coming in. You want them on the way out. I would simply just say to that is we're agreeable to signs at the township's direction. However, many cases we are moving them or shifting them up or down the road, or even adding them as the plan may dictate as is required. But we will add signs, meeting the ordinance, which doesn't exactly tell us exactly where to put them. Is that all right? Public Works comes out and tells us where to put the speed limit signs.
Speed limit signs and the stop signs, we kind of would like to have word in that, because a lot of them try to come in and have a three-way stop. You shouldn't have it that way. It's the street that's egressing in gets the stop sign. The right-of-way street does not.
Okay.
Just before it's not, we'll take a look at it.
Correct.
Then we have to create an ordinance on it.
Ordinance plan provide location and profile, number 11. This is again back to the municipal authority's approval of the sanitary system. We will, upon as it's a private system, at least at this point, it does get into the little bit of gray area on what does their approval, is it required or what does it constitute. We're more than happy to have any input they may have on the design. So
When's the next time you're planning on meeting?
when we get through this and we've amended everything, we'll reschedule. We are currently, and then we haven't got you the CAD file just yet, I don't believe, Larry, but we owe you the CAD file for the water line based on our last meeting. So I would say within 30 days, no longer than that, to have everything done here, all these comments cleaned up. Actually, I could do it less than that at their availability.
Okay, I'll make my comment later.
Okay.
So, go ahead, Joe.
Yep, 12, again, Alexis isn't here, draft covenants were resupplied to Alexis with the few comments that she had, we did not, other than she got them, we did not get a response. That she was, they were inadequate in any way. Number 13, we fully acknowledge that a developer's agreement is required. I'll happily have a draft of it, whoever supplies that at this point in time.
My position on 12 and 13 is we could approve the overall document with the condition that you still have to do a developer's agreement and
That's absolutely par for the course. In fact, I would.
because the supervisor or the solicitor normally, that's at the very end. I mean,
Correct.
that's your last meeting.
That's correct.
So we'll play that out as it
Yep,
develops.
absolutely. And there may be, as I might expect, additional conditions or whatever might occur when we get to the board, which then would be documented via the developer's agreement and the covenants, and then even moving on to item 14, which is the cost estimate, which
Have that included with my.
12, 13, and 14 are, I would say they're the same thing, but they are the same conversation.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, with 14, that goes back to the phasing plan of just those clear lines, that way we know what he's bonded in each phase.
And we will make absolutely certain that our phasing line extends to the limit of, we don't draw it right there. We certainly understand that. So that brings me, through 14 down to 1 in subdivision and land development. This is something we talked about before. Item number 1 is showing the condo plan. It's been my position in this area where we do not have lot lines that we don't show a condo plan. The only means to show a condo plan is to build the condo itself. We've given the township examples of how we've done that in the past, where once the building is built, we come back through with that condo plan. The reason, legally speaking, I show a condo plan, that establishes that limit of that unit. So we will happily provide the condo plans to the township for their review. We simply can't do it now, the buildings don't exist. Does that make?
It makes sense to me.
Yeah.
You guys okay with that?
Yeah, that's understandable.
Yeah, okay.
So that's gonna be, we'll present that at the time you put the foundation.
Right, we get the foundations in, we get the slab in, now the building, where it exists physically in the planet Earth, it can be established. And there's a plan created that then the owner who buys that knows that the corner of my unit is right there versus drawing it on here and it's over here. And it's more of a problem for everybody behind me in the future
I
than
think
me.
you need to clarify that in a way that makes sense, that's all.
Well,
I
we
understand.
attempted to by showing the condo, buildings on the plans, generally speaking, but if that building moves over 1.5 feet, and I've already recorded it, you're gonna have a heck of a title issue.
Yeah, you can't do it.
Please believe me on that one, yeah, it's not something, not a
I
road.
understand what you're saying, I'm just trying to figure out a way of saying it in the document here.
If you guys have any, if anybody has any ideas, I'm all ears, but I don't believe that they're,
Yeah, well, I'll reconvene with Sean and Kevin.
okay.
I think you just say the actual lines will be determined.
Once buildings
the
are.
foundation-
We can add a big fat note that says condo plan to be provided at time of building construction, however you'd want that
It'd be like
to be set.
I think
I
adding
think
that
you
note would be
would
good.
do it when the slab is poured.
Correct, we can't do it before, at least a block. We prefer to do it the slab.
I think
It's
that'll
not,
cover it. I think that's what we're trying to do.
Would you consider like an as-built document?
That would be.
it's very close. Which, Mr. Horn, back to your point, would be most appropriately addressed in the developer's agreement, I would think. Just my,
As a condition.
as a condition of the developer's agreement, that prior to issuance of occupancy permit by the township, that the condo plan has been recorded and supplied to the township.
I think what you just said there is that you should add to the plan.
There,
As long
okay.
as Alexis agrees to it, I don't know.
Okay. 1A, we have no issue with any certifications. These are just the proper certification blocks, cleaning those up. 1B, actually, this is important. Duquesne Lake. We've got an existing. It's over here. I previously provided plan documentation from Duquesne Lake. There's an existing power line running through the site that serves the properties of south. I hope you guys will back me up on this. It is impossible for me to get Duquesne Lake to design this entire thing before I put a shovel in the ground. They have written a letter stating simply they are required, they are bound by, I'm going to say the PUC, to continue service to those properties that are down there, and any means required to get to that. I provided with them several routes, but ultimately it's their design, which I have no control of whatsoever. Whether they bring it down this road, loop it through here, or whatever, they're gonna make their own decision on that. I hope you guys agree that at this point in time, having a full electrical drawing is not. It's just not possible. Other than Duquesne Lake Committee, they're bound. They have to.
Once they commit to it.
Yeah, they have to commit to it.
Yeah.
But an actual, it's going to go here to here to here to here to here is not. They haven't got. They're not. They're a year away from being focused on this, and that's their.
I'm agreeing with that.
Yeah, typically we would look at that as a third party approval.
Right.
It's on their schedule.
We missed a couple of area notes with regard to the clubhouse, lot 501. Those have been added. Similarly, item 1D, while we provided all the can will serve letter, getting the final electrical design, the final gas design. We can show laterals, but again, that's their design that follows long after we get approvals. In fact, they won't look at it until I send them an approval letter, and we begin construction.
And ultimately, design plans, once you do have them, and then you add the information.
Which is all fine with it, exactly.
I agree with that.
Item 2, with regard to ADA ramp, this is at the mailbox primarily. Tell me if I'm wrong. Mailbox locations and within the site. There's a note about leaders. We'll correct any deficiency with leaders. It sounds like we had a floating note. At the proposed mailboxes, perfectly. I would say we will make them ADA compliant. That may or may not mean we actually have ADA ramps. In most cases, I like to bevel my pavement to be flush with the concrete so that I don't have a ramp at all. But ADA compliance is very important to me, and it will be done at each of those cluster box units.
Yeah, if you could provide maybe a grading plan of that area to show that, maybe that would be a good response. And I'll tie into comment 4 a little bit too. The township does have the standard detail for the ADA cluster mailbox too, so I would preference.
You know what I like to do though is take my curb out where that is going to jut back in and pave straight through it, provide my parking as is shown, and then nobody has to step over a curb. And I don't have to, let's say I don't have to worry about ADA. I'm better than ADA in my opinion. I don't like the dimple mats because they get hit by snowplows. Number 3, again back to crossings with DEP. We have and are awaiting the DEP approvals for our trail crossing. They were submitted. They will be provided to the township upon receipt. 4. So again, back to the accessibility at ADA. Our commitment is we have to make them ADA compliant. That's. I do see you're asking for more detail at those locations.
Yeah, and again, just reference the township standard detail for the cluster mailbox in your design as well.
Okay. That concludes everything down on what I would consider to be on the planning side. The balance of the letter is stormwater related. I'm happy to go through it, but I don't know what the heck I'm talking about. That gets into the more technical side of things, and I would like the ability for our resubmission to address that with Glenn Smith having plenty of time to review that. Is there anything on there, guys, that you would like me to address that's more of a planning issue? They're more talking about riprap sizes and outfall pads and whatnot.
Yes. So I'll go through the stormwater for the planning commission. There are a couple comments relative to some channel calculations, channels that were installed behind some houses. So we did request that to be provided. Some clarification, some of the riprap aprons, again, aren't shown graphically on the plan correctly. They show them going into it, so we do want that to be revised as well. And then there is a comment about operation and maintenance relative to tree plantings. They are taking credit for it in their NPDES permit. I think it's about 831 trees or so they're utilizing for credit. So there should be an operation and maintenance plan. It kind of ties into what Alex was talking about earlier this evening.
And actually further, so that's one thing is the O&M, the operation and maintenance of what you just said tied into what you had earlier presented about once a year tied into what the conservation district is saying. We have a I don't want to say a tug of war going on a little bit, but we do, which I'm all for the plantings. In fact, Ernst owes me that. I won't try it in my yard or by my bees, so it's just tell them to lick the state up and send me a pound. But that's it. That's all I had from a planning perspective.
So six under that, again,
Well, the modifications,
They're just things that need to be noted, is that?
correct me if I'm wrong, John, but you're just restating what's been
Correct.
part of
It's
the
no longer
approval
approved as
for,
part of the tentative approval.
yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I did mean to get to that.
Just wanted to make sure
Yeah.
that.
Those are no new modifications, no alteration to tentative approval, no change in unit count, no,
These were just the things that we discussed.
that's not
prior.
to be correct.
Okay.
I believe you just put that in there from a
That's more of a
placekeeping kind
a
of
reference standpoint.
reference
Okay.
standpoint.
I just wanted to verify that's all that was.
I'm sorry that took longer than 15 minutes, but I'm trying to.
well, under stormwater management, 6 again goes back to the solicitor.
Number 7 with the agreement.
Maybe, I can't, maybe that is a 7 in there.
Yeah, that would be an Alexis item
Yeah.
with the developer's agreement.
Generally speaking, we're provided, well, I'm not sure how you guys want to see it, but we're provided that, we don't, right, that would be Alexis's decision, but that would be an agreement that gets rolled up into that developer's agreement
Exactly.
and all that we sign.
Now, anybody have questions specifically to our list from OSS?
Who is the gas provider? Is it people?
Quite honestly, haven't decided. Peoples or Columbia is able to serve the location.
Are there any existing lines on that road or nearby?
No, but they're at both ends. So,
That the Cranberry line?
if the Cranberry line is Columbia and Peoples is within distance that they can get there.
People's Gas has contacted the township and wanted a database in that area on the road,
That's what I was getting at. If these gas lines are extended, is that gonna make it available for other township residents possibly?
100%. I mean, I'm not
Yeah.
a gas company, but
Right.
yeah.
I know People's is researching that portion.
I can tell you they're both very interested.
When are you gonna have all these things along with the OSS agreed? We have a deadline.
I mean, we'll have these revised plans back to you within a week, just to make sure that I have crossed Ts and dotted Is. I believe that there is discussion about a workshop, whether that happens or not, but we will have them back to you within a week, which would then be 3 weeks for you, and the worst case, to look at them before the next regularly scheduled planning commission meeting I would certainly hope by then, as much as this is a 9-page letter, there's not a lot of start overs, you know.
I could probably help you expedite a couple of questions, especially with the paving. So basically, the easiest thing, just tell Gateway wherever your limits are, put a hatch, match it on the legend, say 2 inches of this.
Right.
That's going to be specific.
That's what I actually wrote down on here already.
I figured you were on it.
Yeah. You guys all, what we'll do on the overlay and the road widening, we're gonna hatch the limit of the existing road. This road to be widened to 18-foot wide CD till it's sheet, C502 or whatever that, whatever it might be.
My question has to do with planning. Schedule, I guess. I didn't want to go to the meeting on the 17th of October, which is, we'd have to approve this to meet the extension that's already been granted. So my theory was maybe we could do a workshop, review this again with the OSS. Can you meet October 2nd for a review of this to see if we're going to be able to approve this on the 18th, 17th?
So if Brett's able to get into the response to us early next week, I don't see why we couldn't have a look through to see where it's at, to provide an update to the planning commission. I don't know if we have a full new letter issued at that point, but we would have a good understanding of where he's at.
I'm not putting words in your mouth, but you guys know Gateway.
Yeah.
I'm trusting that they can whittle down 9 pages to clarify this or that.
Well, my intent for the commission is that we have a workshop on the 2nd. That's our regular workshop scheduled to review Meadowcrest plan to see where we're at with the OSS review. And if it's known that you are not going to be able to rubber stamp the majority of this review here, I would not have that meeting.
Understood.
But at the same time, I'm saying I don't want to go to the 17th with a lot of what ifs. I want to go to the 17th.
I can agree. We can move. I'm motivated. I mean, not that you guys aren't, but I mean, I'll have a meeting before we with Glenn and Smith or here, if that be the case, or a Zoom call or whatever the case may be. I don't think there's no meat on this bone.
I don't think there's a lot
opinion.
here for
There's
you
not.
to accomplish and OSS to approve. But let us know ahead of time. Right now, I would like to schedule a workshop for the October 2nd. I think that's our date. Verify that.
Yeah.
And if either you say we can't meet that date, I'm gonna ask for another extension, because I'm not gonna go to the meeting on the 17th with a lot of what ifs. Is my point. I don't have a problem if OSS can approve.
Mr. Horn, the only thing I would say is that between October 2nd and October 17th, because that's what I might think is a lot of what ifs, and you might, and they might. If I'm down to 3 minuscule comments on October 2nd that I can fix on October 3rd, I would respectfully still ask the ability to appear at the October 17th.
We're down to that level, I would agree.
Yeah, okay. Well, we're down to not a lot.
When we actually get the letter, it has to say we have agreement here. That's what I'm getting at. I'm not gonna skip.
Completely understood. I'm not going to agree to. I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we need the word from OSS that they're going to review everything and they think they can have a good document for October 2nd.
Yeah, well, they can have it faster. Mr. Schultz gets us Thursday.
Well, the intent on October 2nd is to see where we're at. I don't want to go to the 17th with a lot
and then
of
see where we're
open
at.
stuff.
Correct. But I don't want to say that just because on October 7th or 2nd we've got 4 comments that we might need to discuss, that we don't come back on the
The
17th.
meeting
If
will
it's,
be,
if it's,
the meeting will be had to see that you're both in agreement
correct.
with whatever is
I agree.
unfinished.
Not a problem. I will work with these folks and you guys.
The meeting on the October 2nd is to review the latest OSS report. And if we feel it's clean, we will move to October 17th to approve the final document for Meadowcrest development.
I know that I can be done in a week. Is that agreeable to you?
If you can get us a response.
Within a week.
Preferably be by Tuesday or at the latest Wednesday.
Wednesday,
The
okay.
only thing I need from staff is Alexis agrees with that. And I think she would, I don't see any reason she wouldn't. But there is 4 issues in there for her to say,
I believe if she were here, she'd say 3 or 4.
I'm agreeing,
Yeah,
I'm just,
I
I
know
don't
that,
want to
yeah.
put more words in anybody's
Never
mouth.
mind. I said, I believe.
I need to hear it from her and from the OSS.
Understood.
Al, is that workshop at 6:30?
Yes.
Yes, it's the 25th.
Is everybody okay with that? Hopefully you all can make it, because I think
Yep.
it'd be important that we're all here. Okay, Brett? Work with OSS and clean it up.
Do you have a card?
What is there's 2 letters from OSS for September 13, the second one being,
The second one is the subdivision review. If you got, I didn't,
Yeah, so the subdivision is just like the recording plan for the doc, that will be recorded at the county's office. A lot of that is more just cleanup stuff and plan,
I read it, I felt that if all this, when this is all in place, that the recording plan is, I don't want to speak for you.
signature paragraphs on that.
Yeah. So yeah, we're in for a land development and a subdivision. For the most part, the comments, make sure the certification's right, make sure they're applicable to both, and by correcting one, you're essentially correcting the other. Again, please don't.
Yeah, he's correct on the clauses. There's a couple of comments about easements for proposed utilities, making sure that the utilities are shown in the correct location. We saw a couple discrepancies from land development plan to the subdivision, so we just want to see that corrected. That way, when that plan does go before the planning commission and the board for signature, and then ultimately reporting at the county, that it's shown correctly reflective of this plan.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not the
So-
same letter, but they're.
October 2nd's important.
I'll be on the phone in my truck before I get out of the apartment.
I want you to be on top of it, and John to be on top of it. Sean's not available right now, but you're working with him.
Yes, sir.
I feel like you're walking out.
So there'll be a
No, I think for
review
now.
number 3 for both of
I'll
these.
see the letter, I'll see the letter.
Alright, you might wanna just take note that one
I
says
always
there's 2
talk that out.
condominium parcels, the other one says there's 3.
Got it.
Are there any questions? I want to ask the whole group. Are there any questions? And I didn't mean to jump over and go too fast. I also respect your time.
I didn't think we would get through all of them, but I heard you were on top of it because you feel
That's
comfortable
what I do.
that you answer all of it, so that's fine. In my estimation. You guys have anything else? Ed? All right.
Thank
See
you.
you on October 2nd
October 2nd.
for preliminary approval. That's the way I'm looking. You okay with it? This, Madam, Vice Chair?
Yeah, we've granted an extension before the Board of Supervisors until November 5th.
Yes, I knew that, but
You will not have opportunity in between the 17th. Well, I shouldn't say well, you'll have, you guys can have meetings whenever you want.
if I know we can't approve it on 17th, I'm gonna recommend another extension. So putting
I
the emphasis
understand.
on, that's
I'll
why-
let Alexis, because I'm not,
That's why I wanna have the meeting on the 2nd, to clean anything up,
right.
make your final comments, so that we can approve it on the 17th. So So if we don't feel that we're gonna be comfortable on all the questions, there shouldn't be any, but if there is, I would ask for an extension. I don't wanna do that.
I understand, but you had mentioned preliminary approval. We're not, we're at tentative. Actually, I'll just ask it, Alexis, somebody talk to Alexis tomorrow. We're at final, we've achieved tentative.
Yeah, I'm saying on the second, I wanna be able to say we're ready on the 17th.
Okay, I got you.
Final approval
I
of the.
understand what you're saying,
plan.
okay. We'll be ready as well.
To the supervisor.
Yep.
I'm hoping that we'll run some.
You're messing up my anniversary on all of it.
We're messing up my birthday too, but my birthday.
When's your birthday?
3rd,
November 3rd.
October.
My anniversary's November 3rd.
Either way,
She'll be all right.
we'll make
3rd and the
it,
5th.
we'll make it work.
All right.
Hopefully, we all just can agree on, some loose ends.
They're very easily tied up. Thank you all.
Yeah. Who's gonna replace you?
Don't do anything.
Okay. That's all I have on the agenda. Unless anyone has questions? Larry? You fine?
Yep.
I hope your health continues to improve. Gary had a triple bypass 2 weeks ago. Quadruple bypass.
Thank you.
Any questions down here? We need a motion for adjournment. From everybody,
Make a motion. I'll second it.
motion made in second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you all for taking the time. See you on the second one.
I did.